The dying sands. The sun burned like a cruel god in the sky, stretching its golden hands over endless dunes. The sand, hot enough to cook flesh, shifted under Ethan's boots as he stumbled forward. His breath came in short gasps. His water flask was nearly empty, just a few drops left. He had been walking for hours, maybe days. The desert had no mercy. Ethan wasn't sure how much longer he could last. His throat was dry, his body weak. But he kept moving. The only thing worse than dying of thirst was stopping. Stopping meant death. Then he saw her. At first, he thought it was a trick of the heat, a mirage like the many before. But as he blinked, the shape remained. A body lay in the sand, half buried, unmoving. Ethan forced himself forward, his boots sinking deep into the soft dunes. As he got closer, he saw it was a girl, an alien girl. Her skin was pale, almost silver under the harsh sunlight. Her hair, long and tangled, was a deep shade of blue, like the oceans he had not seen in years. She wore a strange suit, torn in places, revealing delicate arms and legs covered in faint, glowing lines. She was alive, but barely. Ethan knelt beside her, his muscles screaming in protest. He reached out, pressing his fingers to her neck. A weak pulse. Her breathing was shallow. If he didn't help, she would die. He looked at his flask. Only a few drops of water remained. He had saved it for himself, knowing it could mean the difference between life and death. If he gave it to her, he might not make it to shelter. But Ethan wasn't the kind of man to let someone die, not even an alien. Carefully, he lifted her head and brought the flask to her lips. The last drops of water slid into her mouth. At first, she didn't react. Then, slowly, she swallowed. Her eyes fluttered open. Ethan froze. Her eyes. They glowed. A deep, golden light, like stars burning in the darkness. She looked at him, confused, afraid. Then, she whispered one word. Father. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. He pulled back, staring at her. Father. No, that wasn't possible. He had never seen her before. Never been with her kind. This had to be some kind of mistake. But the way she looked at him, there was something familiar in her expression. Something that made his stomach twist. Before he could speak, her body shivered. She was too weak to move, too weak to explain. Ethan shook his head, pushing the thought away. Whatever this girl thought, she needed help. That was all that mattered. He stood, slipping his arms under her and lifting her carefully. She was lighter than she looked, almost weightless in his arms. A gust of hot wind swept across the desert, kicking up a wave of sand. Ethan turned his head, squinting against the storm. The sun was sinking lower. Night would come soon, and with it, the things that hunted in the dark. He had to find shelter. With the girl in his arms, he pushed forward, every step a battle against exhaustion. The desert stretched forever, but he knew there was an old shipwreck somewhere ahead. If he could make it there, they had a chance. Behind him, something moved. Ethan stopped, listened. The desert was never truly quiet. The wind howled, shifting the sand, making it hard to tell what was real and what wasn't. But Ethan had survived long enough to know when he was being watched. His grip tightened on the girl. A low, guttural growl echoed in the distance. Something was coming. Ethan cursed under his breath. He adjusted his hold on the girl and forced himself to move faster. He could see the wreckage now, half buried in the dunes, a rusted metal skeleton of a long-forgotten ship. The growling grew closer. Ethan didn't turn around. He knew better. If he looked back, he might not make it. He reached the ship and ducked inside through a broken opening. The metal groaned under his weight. Inside, the air was cooler, the shadows deep. He moved quickly, placing the girl against a wall and checking her pulse again. Still weak, but steady. Outside, the sand shifted. The growling stopped. Ethan held his breath. Then silence. For now, they were safe. But Ethan knew the truth. The desert never let anyone go so easily, and neither did the past. As he turned back to the alien girl, the words she had spoken echoed in his mind. Father. He didn't know what she meant, but something told him he was about to find out. The awakening. The metal walls groaned as the wind howled outside, carrying the endless whisper of the shifting sands. The wrecked ship had become their only refuge, its once powerful engines now nothing more than rusted skeletons buried under dunes. The air inside was stale, thick with the scent of old metal and decay. Ethan sat against the cold hull, his body heavy with exhaustion. His eyes flickered toward the girl, her pale silver skin glowing faintly under the dim light filtering through the cracks in the wreckage. She was still unconscious, her chest rising and falling with slow, fragile breaths. He studied her, trying to make sense of what had happened. She had called him father. It had to be a mistake. He had no children. He had never been with an alien woman, not that he remembered. And yet there was something eerily familiar about her. The curve of her jaw, the shape of her nose, even the way her brow furrowed slightly in her sleep. It reminded him of someone, a ghost from his past. Ethan exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. His head pounded, a dull ache forming at the back of his skull. Dehydration, exhaustion, stress, it was all catching up to him. Then she stirred. His heart skipped a beat. The girl's fingers twitched, then curled slightly. A faint murmur left her lips. Her body tensed before she gasped, her golden eyes snapping open. Ethan froze. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Her glowing eyes locked onto him, wide with something that looked like recognition. Then, in a shaky voice, she whispered, "Father." Ethan swallowed hard. No, that's not possible. The girl's breath hitched. Her eyes flickered with confusion, pain. She struggled to sit up, her limbs weak. Ethan reached out instinctively, helping her. She flinched at his touch, not from fear, but something deeper. A sense of betrayal. "You don't remember me," she said softly, almost like an accusation. Ethan shook his head. "I don't even know who you are." Her hands trembled as she pressed them against her chest, as if trying to steady herself. "They said you wouldn't. They told me it was better this way." His jaw clenched. "Who told you?" Before she could answer, a deep, distant sound rumbled through the wreckage. Ethan tensed. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Something was outside. His instincts kicked in. He grabbed the girl's arm, forcing her attention back to him. "Can you walk?" She nodded weakly. "Then we move. Now." He pulled her to her feet. She stumbled, nearly falling, but Ethan caught her. Her body was too light, too delicate, as if she had been starved for a long time. He didn't know what had happened to her before he found her, but one thing was clear. She was in no condition to run. Outside, the footsteps grew louder. Ethan peered through a jagged tear in the ship's hull. The sand outside shifted, rippling unnaturally. The wind had died down, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Then he saw them. Tall, shadowed figures moved through the desert, their silhouettes barely visible against the fading sunlight. Their movements were unnatural, too smooth, too precise. Hunters. Ethan had seen their kind before. They didn't belong to any known race. They were something else, something created to track and kill. And they were searching for her. His grip on the girl's wrist tightened. "They're looking for you, aren't they?" She swallowed hard. "Yes." "Why?" The fear in her eyes deepened. She hesitated, then finally whispered, "Because I'm not supposed to exist." Ethan's stomach twisted. What the hell did that mean? He didn't have time to ask. The hunters were getting closer. Their footsteps sent vibrations through the metal floor. Ethan scanned the wreckage. There had to be a way out. Then he spotted it. An old maintenance hatch, partially buried under the sand. It was their only chance. "Come on." He dragged her toward it, his pulse hammering in his ears. He knelt, shoving aside the sand and rusted debris. The hatch was jammed shut. The hunters were nearly at the entrance now. Ethan gritted his teeth, planting his foot against the metal and kicking with everything he had. The hatch groaned before finally giving way, revealing a dark tunnel leading underground. Without hesitation, he pushed the girl inside. "Go," he hissed. She hesitated. "What about you?" Ethan glanced back. The first hunter had reached the ship. Its glowing blue eyes locked onto him. "Move," he barked. She scrambled into the tunnel. Ethan followed, pulling the hatch shut just as a clawed hand lashed out, narrowly missing him. Darkness swallowed them. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, the girl's soft whisper, "You were supposed to protect me." Ethan's chest tightened. He had no idea what she meant. But as they crawled deeper into the underground tunnels, one thing was clear. This was no accident. This girl knew who he was, knew something about him that he had long forgotten. And whatever had been hunting her wasn't going to stop. The hunters in the dark. The tunnel was narrow, suffocating, and smelled of rust and decay. The air was thick, stale, untouched for years. Ethan moved cautiously, keeping his steps light, his breath steady. His fingers brushed against the cold metal walls as he guided the alien girl forward. Behind them, the hunters prowled above, their movements unnaturally smooth, their presence sending vibrations through the earth. Ethan had fought many things in his life, but these creatures were different. They didn't rush. They didn't panic. They waited. They knew their prey had nowhere to run. The girl, Lyra, stumbled slightly, her body weak. Ethan caught her arm, steadying her. Her glowing golden eyes flickered up at him in the dim light. She was afraid. For the first time, Ethan realized so was he. "What are they?" he whispered. She hesitated. "They were sent to erase me." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Who sent them?" Lyra's fingers curled into fists. "My own people." A deep chill crawled down Ethan's spine. He knew what that meant. If she was hunted by her own kind, then she wasn't just an ordinary girl. She was something forbidden, something dangerous. A metallic thud echoed above them. Ethan halted, pulling Lyra to a stop. The hunters were tracking their movements, even from underground. They were adjusting. They weren't chasing. They were herding. Ethan inhaled sharply. "They're leading us somewhere." Lyra's hands trembled. "I know." His pulse quickened. They couldn't stay down here. If they kept moving blindly, they'd walk straight into a trap. He turned to Lyra. "There has to be another way out." She shook her head. "There isn't." Ethan gritted his teeth. That meant one thing: they had to fight. But how? He had no weapons, no water, no strength. And Lyra, she was barely standing. But then his eyes caught something on her arm. A mark. At first, it looked like a scar, but as he stepped closer, he saw it clearly. It was a birthmark, a perfect match to his own. Ethan's blood turned cold. He had ignored the possibility before, convinced himself that it was just a mistake, a coincidence. But now he couldn't deny it. "Where did you get that?" His voice was low, tight. Lyra followed his gaze, then slowly raised her arm. She traced the mark with her fingers, her lips parting slightly. "You gave it to me." Ethan staggered back. No, that wasn't possible. His head spun, flashes of old memories surfacing, memories he didn't even know he had. A woman with silver skin and ocean blue hair, her laughter like music in the night. A promise whispered in the dark. The feeling of warm, delicate hands pressed against his own. Then, war, explosions, a battle he could barely remember. And the woman's voice, desperate, begging. Keep her safe. Ethan gripped his head, his breath ragged. No, it wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But Lyra's eyes never wavered. "You don't remember me," she whispered. "But I remember you." Ethan's heart pounded. He wanted to deny it, push the truth away. but his body remembered what his mind had forgotten. She was his daughter, and she had been waiting for him. A loud screech tore through the tunnels. Ethan jerked his head up just as the metal above them buckled inward. The hunters had found them. Lyra gasped as the ceiling ripped open, revealing a single dark figure dropping into the tunnel. Its body was covered in smooth, shifting armor, its glowing blue eyes locking onto them. Ethan's instincts took over. He pushed Lyra behind him and raised his fists, even though he knew it was useless. The hunter tilted its head, studying them. Then it spoke. "You were never meant to remember." Ethan's blood ran ice cold. Before he could react, the hunter lunged. Its claws sliced through the air, moving faster than anything he had ever seen. Ethan barely had time to dodge. He slammed against the tunnel wall, pain bursting through his ribs. The hunter ignored him. It went straight for Lyra. She screamed as the creature grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. Ethan roared. His body moved on instinct, pure, protective rage. He tackled the hunter. The impact sent them both crashing into the tunnel wall. The creature stumbled, surprised, but not hurt. Its glowing blue eyes narrowed. "You are irrelevant, human," it hissed. "The girl does not belong." Ethan gritted his teeth. He didn't care what this thing thought. No one, nothing, was taking her from him. He reached for the only weapon he had, a jagged metal pipe sticking out of the wreckage. He ripped it free and swung. The hunter dodged, but barely. The pipe scraped its armor, sending sparks into the dark. For the first time, the creature hesitated. Ethan bared his teeth. "I don't care who you think she belongs to." He stepped forward, gripping the pipe tighter. "She's mine." The hunter tilted its head. Then it smiled. "You don't understand, human," it murmured. "She's not just yours." The ground shook. Ethan barely had time to react before the tunnel exploded. The power she inherited. The world was fire and rubble. Ethan's ears rang as he opened his eyes, his vision blurred by dust and blood. He felt weight on his chest, heavy metal debris pinning him to the ground. The tunnel had collapsed, burying him in darkness. His lungs burned from inhaling the thick dust clogging the air. And then he remembered. Lyra. Panic surged through him. He forced his aching arms to move, pushing against the jagged wreckage. Metal scraped against metal as he struggled, pain flashing through his ribs. Then, movement. A low, unnatural hum filled the air, sending vibrations through the collapsed tunnel. It wasn't the hunters. It wasn't the shifting of the wreckage. It was her. Ethan gritted his teeth and pushed harder. A sliver of dim blue light flickered through the cracks in the debris. Through the opening, he saw Lyra, floating. Her body hovered above the ground, weightless, surrounded by a glowing energy, an aura of deep gold and violent blue. Her hair, once tangled and weak, now lifted with unseen power. Her eyes burned brighter than ever. And in front of her, the hunter was kneeling. Ethan froze. The hunter, the same creature that had thrown him aside like a rag doll, was trembling. Its sharp, deadly claws twitched, its armored body bowed, its glowing blue eyes wide in something Ethan had never seen before. Fear. Lyra's voice, when she spoke, was not her own. "You should not have come here." Her words vibrated through the air, filled with something ancient, something powerful. The hunter flinched, but did not run. Instead, it whispered, "It's true. The prophecy is true." Ethan's breath caught. Prophecy. What the hell was this thing talking about? Lyra's hand lifted slightly, and the hunter was yanked into the air. Its body twisted, as if caught in invisible chains. It struggled, but couldn't break free. She was controlling it. Ethan had seen things in his time. He had fought wars, seen planets burn, watched civilizations rise and fall. But nothing had ever terrified him more than the power radiating from Lyra now. He had given his last drop of water to a girl who was so much more than she seemed. She wasn't just a lost child. She was something else. The hunter's voice was strangled, barely a whisper. You should not exist. Lyra tilted her head, studying the creature with cold detachment. You tried to erase me, she murmured. But now, I remember everything. The tunnel shook with the force of her power. The hunter's armor began to crack. It released a horrified scream. Ethan saw what was about to happen. Lyra, stop, he shouted. For a moment, she didn't hear him. She was too deep, too lost in whatever power had awakened inside her. The air warped around her, the energy pulsing from her body turning hotter, sharper. Then, her eyes flickered. She turned her head slightly, looking at Ethan. The rage, the overwhelming power, wavered. Ethan forced himself forward, despite the pain. He reached out and grabbed her wrist. Enough. His voice was firm, steady, human. For a heartbeat, she just stared at him, conflicted, torn between two forces. Then, the golden aura flickered and vanished. Lyra collapsed, her body falling limply into Ethan's arms. The hunter dropped to the ground, gasping, barely alive. Its armor was cracked, its body damaged beyond repair, but it did not try to attack. It only stared at Lyra with something that looked almost like reverence. You were never meant to be found, it rasped. They will come for you. They will come for both of you. Ethan's grip tightened around Lyra. His protective instincts flared. Let them come, he growled. The hunter exhaled one last breath, then went still. The fight was over, but the war had just begun. Ethan lifted Lyra into his arms. She was weak again, her body limp, her breathing shallow. Whatever power she had awakened had drained her completely. But he had seen it. She wasn't just his daughter. She was something far greater, and now everyone in the universe would be looking for her. He had no choice. He had to get her out of here. Even if it meant facing the past he had tried to forget. Even if it meant fighting the entire galaxy. Because now, he wasn't just protecting a lost girl. He was protecting the most powerful being he had ever seen. And he would never let her go. The enemy that took her. The tunnel stretched endlessly, an ancient vein carved into the planet's flesh. Ethan carried Lyra through the dim, rusted passageways, his legs burning with exhaustion, his mind racing with questions. The girl in his arms, his daughter, was more than she seemed. More than just a lost child. More than just another refugee in this godforsaken desert. She was powerful, and someone had tried to erase her from existence. Her body was limp, drained from whatever force had awakened inside her. Her breathing was shallow but steady, her golden eyes flickering open and shut. She was fighting to stay awake, but the weight of what had happened was pulling her under. Ethan's grip tightened around her. No, she couldn't give up now. Stay with me, kid, he muttered, forcing his feet forward. We're almost there. He didn't know where there was, but he knew they had to keep moving. Behind them, the tunnel shook, a deep mechanical rumble echoing through the underground like distant thunder. The hunters had failed, but they weren't the only ones looking for Lyra. There would be more. And next time, they wouldn't come with whispers and shadows. They'd come with warships. A message from the past. The tunnel opened up into a vast chamber, a buried ruin, swallowed by time. The walls were smooth metal, etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. Ancient technology, not human. Ethan carefully set Lyra down against the wall, scanning the chamber. It was old, but not abandoned. Someone had been here recently. The dust was disturbed, the air slightly warmer than the tunnels. Then he saw it. At the far end of the chamber, a terminal was still active. A soft blue light pulsed on the control panel, waiting to be triggered. Ethan hesitated. This could be a trap. But right now, they needed answers. He glanced at Lyra. She was watching him now, still weak, but her eyes were more awake than before. "What is this place?" he asked. Her lips parted, but she looked just as confused as he was. I don't know. Ethan turned back to the console. He took a deep breath, then reached out and pressed his palm against the interface. A soft hum filled the chamber. The walls shifted, ancient mechanisms coming to life. A hologram flickered into existence before them. At first, it was static, blurred, and broken. But then, a woman's face appeared. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He knew that face. Her silver skin, ocean blue hair, and deep golden eyes. The same as Lyra's. The same as the woman from his dreams. The woman he had forgotten. And then she spoke. Ethan, if you're seeing this, then you finally remember. His heart slammed against his ribs. Lyra gasped, "Mother." The hologram continued, the woman's expression filled with urgency, with love and fear. You were never supposed to forget, but they made you. They erased the truth from your mind, because they were afraid of what we created together. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. What the hell is she talking about? Lyra looked just as shaken. I don't know. The hologram's eyes softened. Lyra, my star, if you are watching this, then they found you. And if they found you, they will come for him too. The chamber shook violently. A deep mechanical roar rumbled from above. Ethan spun toward the entrance. A red light pulsed from the tunnel. They were coming. But the message wasn't finished. Ethan, they took her from you. They took both of you, but they could never take what was in your blood. And now, they will try to finish what they started. Ethan's body went cold. Took her from him. Erased his memories. Before he could process it, the hologram's expression darkened. Listen to me. You are not just a soldier, Ethan. You are not just a man. And Lyra is not just a child. She is the bridge between two worlds. She is the key to everything. But only if you protect her. Only if you survive. The message cut out. Ethan stared at the empty space where the woman's image had been. His pulse was pounding. His thoughts a chaotic storm. The past he had been forced to forget was crawling back. And if what she said was true, then he and Lyra were in more danger than he had ever imagined. They have found them. A deep boom echoed through the chamber. The ground shook violently, sending dust raining from above. Then, a voice. A deep mechanical voice, coming from the tunnel. The human has awakened. Engage capture protocol. Ethan grabbed Lyra's wrist and ran. They bolted through the chamber as metal doors slid open along the walls. Figures stepped out, tall, armored, moving with inhuman precision. Not the hunters from before. Something worse. Ethan recognized them immediately. Elite enforcers. The ones who erased memories. The ones who made people disappear. And they were here for him. Here to finish what they started. The Father's fury. The ground trembled beneath Ethan's feet, a deep mechanical thrum pulsing through the ruined chamber. Dust rained from above as heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnels behind them. The elite enforcers had arrived. Ethan didn't hesitate. Run, he barked, grabbing Lyra's wrist and yanking her forward. Her legs were weak, but she pushed herself forward, breath ragged. The message from her mother still echoed in her mind. They erased your memories. They took her from you. Ethan's head throbbed with fragments of something just out of reach. Memories clawing to break free. He didn't have time to process them. Because the machines were closing in. They sprinted through the chamber, past rusted ruins and glowing alien glyphs. At the far end, a metal door loomed, half buried in sand. Their only way out. Ethan slammed his shoulder against it, gritting his teeth as the metal barely budged. Behind him, the heavy thud-thud-thud of approaching footsteps sent ice through his veins. They were out of time. Then, a voice. Cold. Mechanical. Subject identified. Lyra. Hybrid anomaly. Execute capture sequence. Ethan turned just in time to see 3 towering figures emerge from the tunnel. The elite enforcers were unlike anything he had ever faced. They were tall, easily 8 feet, their bodies encased in sleek, black exo armor. Their faces were hidden behind smooth, expressionless visors. Their movements were too precise, too inhuman. They didn't walk. They glided. One of them raised an arm. A metallic whir filled the air. Ethan reacted on instinct. He shoved Lyra aside just as a pulse blast fired from the Enforcer's gauntlet. The energy bolt slammed into the wall, blowing a hole through solid metal. Lyra gasped, shielding her face from the heat. Ethan's chest heaved. These weren't normal soldiers. They weren't even alive. They were machines, designed to kill. And they were here for her. The father's rage. One of the Enforcers stepped forward, its head tilted slightly, like a predator studying prey. The human host is irrelevant. Terminate if necessary. Ethan's blood boiled. His body moved before he could think. He rushed forward, fists clenched. A lifetime of war, of battle instincts, kicked in. The Enforcer raised its arm again, preparing another pulse shot. Ethan ducked. The blast whizzed past his ear, singing the air. Then he struck. His fist slammed into the Enforcer's chest. Pain shot through his knuckles. The machine didn't even flinch. It was like punching a wall. Before Ethan could react, the Enforcer grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Lyra screamed. Ethan choked, clawing at the cold, metal fingers tightening around his neck. Human resistance is inefficient, the machine stated. His vision darkened. His lungs burned. His body struggled, but the grip was too strong. This was it. This was how it ended. Then, Lyra's voice cut through the air. Let him go. The temperature in the chamber plunged. The Enforcer suddenly jerked, its body seizing. Its glowing blue visor flickered, then shattered. An invisible force ripped through the room. Ethan fell to the ground, gasping for breath. He looked up just in time to see the impossible. Lyra was floating again. Her eyes burned with pure golden light. The air around her warped, twisted. She raised a hand. The second Enforcer lifted off the ground, its body trembling violently. Sparks exploded from its joints. Then, it was crushed. The machine's armor caved inward, metal screaming as unseen pressure folded it like paper. Ethan stared. Lyra wasn't just fighting back. She was erasing them. The final Enforcer hesitated. For the first time, one of them hesitated. Lyra turned toward it. Her voice was not her own. It was ancient, powerful, terrifying. I am not yours to erase. The Enforcer took a single step back. Then, in an instant, it was gone. One moment it was standing there. The next, its body imploded, sucked into a point of nothingness before vanishing. The room fell into silence. Lyra's body dropped. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. She was unconscious, her skin cold, her body drained. But she was alive. And she had just wiped out the most advanced killing machines in the galaxy. The truth they stole. Ethan's mind raced. The message from her mother. The erased memories. The hunters. Lyra wasn't just powerful. She was something impossible. And the ones who had tried to kill her weren't done yet. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't just running anymore. He was going to war. The blood of two worlds. The air smelled like fire and metal. Ethan forced himself forward, carrying Lyra as the underground ruins trembled beneath them. Dust rained from above, and the dim glow of alien glyphs flickered on the collapsing walls. They had won the fight, but the war was far from over. The elite Enforcers were dead, destroyed, obliterated by Lyra's power, a force even she didn't fully understand. But their destruction had triggered something else. An emergency beacon. A signal had been sent. Now, they were no longer just prey. They were the most wanted fugitives in the galaxy, and something was coming. Ethan reached the tunnel's exit, the once sealed doorway now torn open by Lyra's abilities. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, the night sky painted in deep purples and burning golds. A violent sandstorm howled in the distance, but something was wrong. The stars above were shifting, moving. Then he saw them. Ships. Not just any ships. Warships. The arrival of the Dominion. A fleet of black, jagged vessels broke through the atmosphere, moving in perfect synchronization. Silent, precise, relentless. Their underbellies glowed with a deep, pulsing red, the mark of the Dominion. Ethan's heart pounded. The Dominion, the empire that had erased his past. The ones who had stolen Lyra from him before she was even born. And now, they were here to finish what they started. Ethan scanned the horizon. No cover, no escape. The underground ruins were collapsing behind them, and the ships were descending fast. Think, damn it. Then, Lyra stirred. She shifted in his arms, her golden eyes fluttering open. Weak, but alive. Ethan knelt, setting her down gently. Lyra, listen to me. We don't have much time. Her gaze was hazy, her mind still recovering. What happened? You saved us, Ethan said. But now we have bigger problems. He tilted his head toward the sky. She followed his gaze. Her eyes widened. The warships were descending fast, dark shapes blotting out the stars. Lyra's breath hitched. They found us, she whispered. Ethan nodded. Yeah. And they won't stop until we're dead. A father's last stand. A distant hum filled the air. The warships weren't just landing. They were deploying. From the bellies of the great vessels, black dropships rained down like falling stars. Hundreds of them. Thousands. The entire army of the Dominion was coming. Ethan stood, jaw clenched, his fists tightened, his muscles burned with exhaustion, but he refused to kneel. Not now. Not ever. He turned to Lyra. You need to run. She snapped her head toward him, eyes sharp with fear. No. Lyra. No. The ground shook. Ethan's breath caught. For the first time, her voice alone had power. Lyra's eyes were no longer just golden. They were burning. Alive. I am done running, she whispered. And then, something inside her broke free. The air around her warped. The stars above shuddered. And the warships in the sky paused. A power the galaxy feared. Ethan staggered back. Lyra rose into the air, her body surrounded by a swirling aura of gold and deep violet. The same energy that had destroyed the Enforcers, only now it was growing, expanding. The Dominion warships trembled. Their once smooth formations wavered, and then they started falling. Ethan's eyes widened. The impossible was happening. Lyra wasn't just fighting back. She was rewriting reality. The warships that had once been unshakable monoliths in the sky were now being pulled apart, their metallic hulls twisting and shattering, as though some unseen force was unraveling them from the inside. The sky was breaking. The sandstorm erupted around them, but Lyra remained untouched. Her face was calm. Her power was absolute. Ethan, for the first time, realized the truth. She wasn't just a girl. She wasn't just his daughter. She was something far greater, something the galaxy had tried to bury, to erase, to control. And now, she had awakened. The choice that would shape the universe. As the warships crumbled, Ethan saw movement on the ground. Survivors, soldiers of the Dominion. They didn't attack. They didn't fight. They bowed. Ethan's stomach twisted. Even the most powerful empire in the galaxy was afraid of her. Lyra slowly lowered to the ground, her aura dimming, her legs buckled, and Ethan caught her. Her body trembled. I didn't mean to. Ethan pulled her close. It's okay, kid. I've got you. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with something fragile. What am I? Ethan exhaled, brushing her silver blue hair back from her face. The blood of two worlds, he murmured. And my daughter. Her breath hitched. The Dominion survivors remained kneeling. The desert was silent. The war was over. Or maybe this was just the beginning.